Welcome to FAB Conversations. I am Sonu Bhasin, and FAB is Families and Business. This is a podcast where we have conversations with people, about businesses, about business people, and of course, about family businesses. Before I start my conversation today, I do urge you to subscribe to my podcast. The conversations are pretty interesting, even though I say it myself. And do subscribe. And if you do like the conversation, press the like button to also share it with the people who you think will enjoy it. So, to my guest today. My guest today is Kazem Samandari. He is the co-founder and chairman of L'Opéra, the wonderful French bakery house and salon de thé. But you know, L'Opéra is not his first venture. Kazem has over 45 years of entrepreneurial experience, which includes 6 startups. He has worked across 60 countries around the world. And now he lives in India with his family. And he says it was not he who chose India, it was India that chose him. And I'm sure there's a very interesting story there, and I'd love to hear more about it. And Kazem is also the recipient of the prestigious National Order of Merit given by the French government to a very carefully selected set of individuals over the years. But he wears his success very lightly. And he could be the unassuming man sitting on the table next to you at one of the L'Opéras. Watch out for him. So welcome to FAB Conversations, Kazem. How are you today?
Thank you so much. Good morning, and thank you so much for having me on your program.
Not at all. But Kazem, I have a complaint to start off with. I mean, why do you make such sinful stuff at L'Opéra? You know, many of my friends and I, we love the stuff, but we can't eat it because we get fat. And you have all this wonderful stuff, and you are so slim and you're fit. This is not fair at all.
Okay, I will share with you a secret. As you know, French people, ladies and men, they are known for their elegance, for their nice, slim figure.
Yeah.
And this is, they are from the country where all this thing is made. So there is a secret, and that's the quantity. We all enjoy everything. At every French meal, we have baguette, we have breads, we have starter, we have main meal, we have dessert, and really we have all of it, but not in huge quantities, not in the US quantities, but European French quantities. You know, since we are beginning this interview, one of the adjustments we had to do when we came here, people, they were talking about cakes. They were always taking 1 kg, 2 kg. In France, we don't do by weight. We say a dessert for 4 people, dessert for 6 people. It's not the weight of the dessert that makes, so it's the quality. So the secret is enjoy all our products, but enjoy them in moderation and in small
quantity. And you do keep them bite size at your outlets.
Exactly. We don't do huge size. It is the quantity, it's the quality which we put in there, the raw materials and everything else which goes. So not quantity, but the quality.
Okay. That kind of lessens the guilt a little bit. So we'll try and take your advice. But you know, you are an engineer and an economist. You studied both of these sciences. And from there, it's a total pivot for L'Opéra. You know, lovely desserts and coffee, tea. How did this idea come about?
Yes, it's true. I just make a small correction to pay respect to those who are really pure macroeconomists. So I am industrial economist.
Industrial economist.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I know much less about at the level of governments at macro level, but I know quite a bit about industrial economy. Okay. That's where my degree is. Okay. Yes, it is true that I started my career by teaching at the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Zurich. When I went to the private sector, I started at a consulting firm where I was advising and I was conducting feasibility studies for nuclear power plants.
Nuclear power plants.
Nuclear power plants. And today we are doing croissants, which is quite and sometimes I with amusement, I say my life is between nuclear power plants and croissants and everything which is in between. So the way we started, so I have to give credit to whom credit belongs. So the idea of L'Opéra was not mine. The idea of L'Opéra was our son's idea. And So what we did, usually children follow in the footsteps of their parents, but in this particular case, it was the parents who followed the lead of their son. So
Right.
it goes to our son, Laurent. And
Right.
if you wish, I can then give a little more of the story and
Yes,
background. So you
please.
can,
Yes, please. That would
you're
be very
interested. Okay,
interesting.
so all started in 2005. We were all, our family, that means our daughter, her husband, Laurent, our son, and also we had a grandson by that time, Olivier. We all lived in Paris. My son-in-law, Pierre, he was working with the famous consulting company McKinsey, and they wanted to have an international experience. So they were hesitating between China and India, and finally they chose India because of the language barrier. And they moved to India in 2005 from the McKinsey office in Paris to the McKinsey office in Delhi.
Right.
That's 2005. And 2 years later, 2 years on, we were very homesick of our grandson, of our daughter, of our son-in-law. And one day, I was mainly spending most of my time in Asia and in Australia, Asia. And our daughter called and said the apartment below them is available. And the landlord says, if you want it, you can have it, but you have only 2 hours to decide. So I was in Tokyo. My daughter, son-in-law, and their children, they were in Delhi. My wife and son, they were in Paris. We had a conference call, and literally in 10 minutes, we decided to move to India. And
Wow, that is
10 minutes.
fast.
So
Even by McKinsey standards, it's fast.
yes, it was very fun. And it's not that we said we come and start a business or not that. We just wanted to be with the family because
Right.
my offices were in Sydney, Tokyo, and Hong Kong. I continued working there. So we moved our home, our base to India. Although my residence was still then in Singapore, I was working somewhere else. And then, since we started the story, our son was finishing his business studies. He had to do an internship at the end of his studies.
Yeah.
And he did it at the Usha. They were family friends. Mr. Sriram Siddharth
Yeah.
Sriram, God bless his soul. He passed away during COVID. And during these 6 months, our son said, oh, there is a market opportunity. I don't find high quality French bakery and pastry and Viennese. And we said, okay, let's start with a market study. And then the rest of it is history.
Wow. That's how it started because your son wanted French bread here.
I assure you that's the full true story, is that the quest of high quality products. Well, there were some products in five-star hotels
Yeah.
that people were having, but this was not what the tradition of French pâtisserie, boulangerie. We wanted to bring it to every man, not to have a barrier of pushing the doors of a five-star hotel. As you
Right.
know, we brought high quality to the main street. It was no more limited to the five-star hotels.
So that's wonderful. But when you did, start the execution of your plan, what were some of the local nuances that you kept in mind so that it would be successful? And did the kind of image that L'Opera has, did you always want it to be like that? Did you want it higher? Did you want it more mass market? Just take us through some of those marketing branding plans.
You know, in your introduction, you mentioned my professional history of working in many different countries.
Yeah.
So, although I had never, I had been to India on behalf of the other companies I was working with, but it was not like starting a company entrepreneurship the way we are doing it today. But one thing I had learned from working in over 60 other countries is that every country has its own specificities. You
Right.
never transpose the conditions of one country to the other. You don't transpose France to USA, USA to Germany, Germany to, I don't know, Japan, etc. that's a recipe for disaster. You
Yeah.
have to study, learn the specificities of every country, and then adapt to that, and then work according to that. So this helped a lot. So when we approached India, we started to learn how India works. And we learned books, we had friends, we consulted, we took their advice. I think with my son, we conducted over 40, 50 interviews from people from the industry, from business, etc. It was really a learning process. And then, so that's one set of it, how we went about it. We established L'Opéra as a company. Actually, L'Opéra is our brand name. The legal name is French Bakery Private Limited. We established the company about 10 months, 11 months before we even decided to start the business. Because we said everything takes time in India. Let's at least have a company that if we start to do it, we don't start with scratch. So with the moment we decided to start L'Opéra, we already had company, bank accounts, everything, and bylaws, so everything was ready there. So that's just one example of how we went about. Now, the other thing, yes, luckily at that time, this was not our major source of revenue. So it said, if we do an activity, we want to base it on values. So we may also speak about that if you're interested later. So we defined 10 core values for this company.
The business, okay.
For the business.
Okay.
And then we put also some other thing. We did our planning, not for 1 year, for one shop, two shops. So our initial plan was for 10 years. Our initial vision of what we want. And then we also wanted to create a brand and an activity that lasts for generations. We didn't want to do a one-off. It doesn't matter if then the business belongs to you or not. Many brands that started, even the founders may not be even shareholders anymore.
Yeah.
I have my sister is married there. She's Swiss. She's married to a Swiss, to one of the descendants of the founders, actually to two of the families who founded Nestle company. So I don't know even if they still have any shares of Nestle, but you see how many generations, and those. So that was always for me in my mind that let's do something. Doesn't matter, again, as I repeat, because if you ask, we can go through the details. Who is the owner? But we wanted a brand. So if you want to do something to last for generations, it has to be like examples like the Tata families. It was not a one-off. It was not a quick buck. So they created something with associated sacrifices, efforts, etc., that was going to last for a long time. And these are our examples. These are that we wanted to follow.
No, I think, what you're saying is just so simple, yet so difficult for a lot of people to understand. That when you're thinking about a business, don't think short term. Because any business, and especially a family business or owned by a promoter, has to have a 50, 60, 80-year perspective. And therefore, even in a company which is maybe not family owned, or even if I'm a professional in a family business, the outlook has to be long term, because there's a lot of difference between when you think quarter on quarter versus, decade after decade. And true businesses are the ones that focus on values, where along with the business, the values also perpetuate. And my work in family businesses has led me to believe that only those family businesses succeed where the inheritors carry forward the family values. Wherever the values are compromised with, businesses fail. So I am so delighted to hear about, and at a later stage, maybe offline, will love to hear about the 10 core values, because those are the ones that are going to keep the business going. But since you're talking of core values, and you do have retail outlets where the touch points are people that you employ, how do you ensure that they follow those core values?
This is an everyday job, never completed, every morning. you know, at the top of our values is commitment to quality and excellence. It's so easy to say that, so easy to say that. But this quality and excellence, it is not just in the products, it is in the service, it's the smile, it is the quality of our outlet, it's the cleanliness, it is the hygiene, it is, I can go on and say how vast this commitment to quality and excellence is.
Right.
So that's one area. Then you have another core value is honesty and trustworthiness. You know, this we are developing it as a virtue, as a quality, as a commitment. And again, we could have a whole session just speaking what does mean trustworthiness and honesty in business. We have commitment to gender equality. We have meritocracy. We have the concept of consultation. So we are encouraging, and it's not always easy with the mentality of India, which is very hierarchical, that you want to have the boss, and when the boss comes, everybody just stands there. Nobody dares express a view, etc. We are encouraging participation, consultation. We know that no matter how brilliant and good you are, you need the input of your other fellow colleagues, etc. We have sustainability. We have, so I can do, so these were some of those values which have a practical implication in the day-to-day life of your company.
You know, you're talking of service with a smile. Now, that's one thing that you don't find in French restaurants.
You're so right.
People there are, I mean, it is almost as if, I mean, the servers there are just so arrogant. And, you know, I like my red wine with a cube of ice, and I get such dirty looks from the servers. And they say, are you sure? And I said, yes, I'm sure, but we don't drink it like this.
Yes.
I do. So,
you know, this what
that's a difference from your French culture. That
you are so right. And each time we go to France and come back, we were discussing the other night with my wife. We said when we go to France, it's not the guard at the door that helps you. We take orders from our guards in France. We call them concierge. Everybody is afraid of the concierge. He's the boss.
Yes.
You're not there. He tells you what you can do, what you cannot do. In the cafes, you're right. You have to beg them to. So you are very right. So now our challenge is how we can bring. But, you know, they're just keep picking on this point because these are, you know, the French, when you go to a normal cafe in the morning, one employee comes, opens the door, cleans the whole cafe, turns on the machine, receives the products, sets up the tables. Still really one person. One person. He opens, he starts serving at 7:38 in the morning. Then his colleagues may come around 10 o'clock and then help and they prepare for it. Now, the same job, we have to do it with 4 or 5 people in India. You see, so it is different, and it is not. We try to take the best of two sides. So here, yes, you can ask. Sometimes, in my humble opinion, some of the customers, they go too far the way they treat the service personnel. They could do. We should send them a few French guys. But it is, we have to take the best of the two worlds and try to find the right middle way.
Right. No, so keeping on talking about India and, you know, the special nuances, what have you discovered about Indians and their love for eating, you know, besides ordering cakes by the kilo? What do you think they like? What have you discovered? Was it something that you had anticipated? Surprises? What?
Yes. So before I go that, I wanted to say one more sentence. You know, one of the critics in F&B and also commentators politically and the famous journalist Veer Sanghvi, he wrote once a piece about how service personnel is also treated in Europe, United States, and in India. And
Yeah.
whoever is interested, I would really recommend to read his article, because it's a big subject of its own. Now, concerning there is always an anecdotal part of it about the kilo, etc. But the pleasant surprises, when we do the business that we do, the way we do it, we use real butter. We use real high quality chocolate. We use high quality cream. We use etc. etc. We use French chefs. We have 2 French executive chefs right now. And the salary of a French executive chef, which is they expect European salaries. And then what we have here, these are different. Now, why do we do that?
Yeah.
Because we want to have high quality products. So then it has a consequence in the prices. Not that we are ripping off and we are becoming billionaires, etc. No. Now, the wonderful surprise is that the informed Indian customer, they realize that was one of the best surprises, because the reputation, l'opéra is expensive. It's expensive. It's true. It is more expensive than I think it's called Evergreen in Green Park. Yes, it is more expensive.
What a comparison.
I mean, it's true. Or we are more expensive than Wenger. Those are both. I respect both. I buy during Diwali products from Evergreen. We buy from time to time from Wenger's, which are wonderful, wonderful. But our customers know that when they buy a product at l'Opéra, it has a certain taste, it has a certain quality, and they are ready to pay the price for it. And this was very, very encouraging. So that's one thing. The second thing is that it took time. It took time. But people understood that when they come to l'Opéra, it is not to have a samosa. Samosa is good. I love it. I love all that. But then there are other alternatives. And it was a very, very difficult decision for us. There are some brands with French names, even they are franchises of French brands. They do serve samosa. They do serve paneer sandwiches. They are commercially even more successful than what we are.
Yeah.
But it is not a French product to serve a paneer sandwich. It is, you do tomato mozzarella if you want it vegetarian, and you do chicken with French onions, etc. That you do it, or you serve. We don't serve dal, but we serve the French onion soup. You see. And if you have a long-term view, you will find those customers who appreciate the tomato mozzarella. You see, so it is, you have to remain. So we have resisted of diluting our brand, diluting our mission. And we want, our tagline is joie de vivre à la française. Joie de vivre means joy of living. À la française, the French way. And India is so vast that we believe there are discerning customers who appreciate that.
Agreed. And the fact that we are 140 billion people, even a small percent of them who appreciate quality and are willing to pay for it, I think that would be enough. And my experience of working in businesses, etc., also lead me to completely agree with you that it is a misnomer that in India people only want cheap, inexpensive products. People want value for money, and everyone has a different value assigned to a particular item. And if a particular item is available to me at the value that I assign to it, I will happily pay for it. So even if there's a fraction of 140 billion people who are like this, you have your hands very, very full.
You know, since we are speaking, this is also a business interested community. We have done a lot of analysis ourselves and relied on that. Of the 1.4 billion, right now, 120 million are our potential customers. 120 million is the population of France and UK together. So it's a lot of work. And in the next 15, 20 years, there is an aspiring population of 300 million, which comes to, and 300 million plus the 120, this is more than the population of the European Union. So we are good for at least the next 30 years with the potential. So we have to work on our brand, our products, our marketing, communication, etc., all those things which you know.
Yeah. So a couple of questions about, the work that you may have done or the work that you have done in other countries. So one is that while people are different across every country, across every culture, in your experience of working in 60 countries, do you find there is some bit of commonality among all the people that you see? Is there a common thread that you see running across various people that you work with?
I believe, I was at one point of my time, of my life, I was working for Israeli startups. That's one of my specialty, startups from Israel. And I was in charge of also their activities, depending at different periods, one particular time in Asia. So I was working with the Israeli culture in Japan. Now, cannot be more opposite. In one case, you have almost zero hierarchy. You have everybody, in the Israeli army, soldiers, they don't even salute the officers. When you sit there in a company, they don't care who is CEO, COO, etc. Everybody expresses, and that's part of their success because creativity is encouraged. In Japan, when you have your CEO or whoever, nobody dares open their mouth. The younger generation, until the age of 40, they don't even open their mouth. So you have this extreme basis. Now, this is in the way you do things, but now commonalities. There is no substitute for systematic approach. There is no substitute for planning. There is no substitute for commitment to quality. There is no substitute for R&D. There is no substitute for long-term vision. So I can put down those things which are common, which are the secrets. There is discipline, there is innovation, there is R&D. So these, no matter which culture, where you are, you have to have those basics. Then it's the difference of style. And what I learned during working in 45 plus years of professional activity and being active in 60 or whatever countries is that you have to appreciate, respect, and you learn from each of these cultural traits. I admire Japan. I mean, for me, if they say, I don't want to name any other country, for me, they are the example for many, 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 many things. Because they manage to combine innovation, modernism, with also tradition, culture, the courtesy, politeness, etc. For me, really, it is fantastic. It is fantastic. Now, on the other hand, I admire the creativity of the startup nation Israel. When you create, you really, I mean, we owe many, many things of that which have become everyday knowledge, software, products, in medical device, printing industry. I can go on and on. And but they created it. So you see, every culture has its own specificities,
Right.
which then you can learn from them and try to put in practice in your own activities.
Yeah. So one export that you can really make from Asia to France is service with a smile.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. In a as long spanning career as yours and across so many various interesting countries and experiences, I'm sure that you've had spectacular successes and maybe a bit of failures as well. Uh, are there any interesting, or would you like to share any story of success that still brings a smile to your face when you look back? And also, if you would like to share uh, any failure that has
Yes,
stayed with
yes,
you
yes.
and that you've learned from.
Let's start with the failures. There is, I think I or anybody else would be um, unfair to say it would not be true if we say there were no failures. Everybody has failures.
Right,
The challenge is that we learn from our failures
right.
and not repeat them, at least in the same manner again and again.
Absolutely right.
Yes, I have had my share of failures, wrong calculations. There are, but each one of them were a very, very good lesson, which
Mhm.
helps as a stepping stone for the next move that you make in life. So
Right.
yes, there may be small ones, there may be bigger ones. For example, some of the failures is misjudgment of people.
Hmm.
This is one of the most painful mistakes that you make. You
Mhm.
trust someone, you believe you're doing together, you have data, and then it appears that that was a misjudgment. You see,
How do you learn from it?
yeah, you
Do you
okay.
stop trusting people?
Yes, that's a very tricky, good question. I want still to trust, even at the cost of being disappointed,
Right.
because life will become very dark if
Yeah.
you start with mistrust.
Right.
So, yes, I believe in the inherent good in people. And if you have patience, then it may work. But on the other hand, it's true that there are some disappointments and or disappointing people. So,
Right.
yes, you can do something better. I mean, even in our, we have right now, I think 18, 19 outlets, but in reality, I think we inaugurated and operated 30 outlets. That means 10 of them, we had misjudged the opportunity, locality, the landlord, etc. So when we closed,
Yeah.
we had to we had to, that means a mistake. Otherwise
Yeah.
otherwise we would have kept all of them open. But again,
Right.
so those things are now about the successes. One of the sweetest part in my career was I think that was the depending on how you count it, my fifth or startup, which was actually fourth startup, which allowed us, I had some stock options, which allowed me to invest in L'Opera. It was a medical device company
Uh-huh.
with Israel, which manufactured. I always keep it in my pocket. What you see here, it's the size of a large vitamin pill. It's
Right.
called PillCam.
Right.
PillCam. What you see here is two cameras and one transmitter, which you swallow, and it sends the
Yeah.
images of your intestines and
Right.
guts. And a doctor receives this data. It's then it's compiled into a video,
Right.
and particularly with your small bowel, when you cannot send an endoscope and colonoscopy inside, you can visualize that. So this company, which was an Israeli startup, was sold for $1 billion to an
Wow.
American company in 2014. So that was fantastic because you know it was a small team. It was a small team, and this was and still remains in many areas the state of the art of technology, knowledge, marketing, health. You saved lives. You developed a product. I was working with scientists, and it was really fantastic, fantastic. I was the president for Asia Pacific and Japan. When we decided to come to India, I was still working for this company, but then we sold it, and then my tenure with them ended. So this is the success one.
Success.
Again, other ones also, but this was particularly sweet. And obviously l'opera, obviously l'opera.
Obviously l'opera. Obviously l'opera. But this small capsule size camera and
Yes.
transmitter, while it is path breaking for I think medicine and human, you said that it got sold to an American firm.
Yes. So why?
And I'm sure they use it for espionage and spying. I don't know whether they use it.
If you keep secrets in your small bowel, no. But I think the spies have even more sophisticated.
Even more sophisticated.
This one, yes. No, yes, it saves lives. It saves lives.
Yeah,
and that's always very sweet. But now, since we are speaking about companies, looking back, when I look and see, we have right now roughly, I think 1,300 transactions every day, touch points with customers at different L'Opera outlets. And when I see the joy, happiness on the smiles of L'Opera customers, I say, why didn't I start making croissants from the beginning of my career? Because everything you do, some people may like it, some people may not like it, but at least with bakery, pastry, and croissants, everybody loves it and loves you.
Yes, absolutely. I think so true. And I see that we have overshot our time, but before I end, what keeps you motivated to keep going, and what is your uh, what do you want to do next besides taking L'Opera outlets to maybe 100 or more? But at a stage of life that you're in, it's money that is not the motivator. Uh, what keeps you going? What motivates you?
It's very good. Huh? You ask very deep questions. L'Opera and the professional activities that we have. I say we because I now include my wife also. Because without my wife, this year we will be celebrating our 50th anniversary. So
I hope you have a party at L'Opera.
Yes. We will do that. You will be invited. Certainly. So it would have never been without a very, very deep partnership.
Right.
Now, the professional activity that we have is just one part of our life. We belong also to the Baha'i community,
right,
which works for the unity of mankind, universal brotherhood, for understanding, interreligious dialogue and work. So that's a second part of our life, which we spend time on that. We are also committed to social progress, society building activities, sharing values with students, with other interested and like-minded people.
Right.
We love art, love culture. And we love interacting with people. So if you put all these things together, it creates a very, very rich life that gives you the power to wake up every morning and to go and pursue your activities. And personally, so that's global. Personally, I have always loved creating something from nothing. So for as long as we can create something Now, this creation can be a company, this creation can be a product, this creation can be a service, this creation can be a social structure. So that's what gives me really the courage and the impetus and the motivation to wake up every morning and start my day.
Wonderful. And I hope that you keep going for years and years and years, because the world does need more Loperas.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And it's been a pleasure talking to you. And offline, I will connect to find out more about the family values, the family business values, because those would be of interest to me. And I hope to see you at one of the Lopera units that I will now visit and take small bites and small bites.
So since you spoke about our name, so it's not just commercial. Yesterday actually around noon, we did a soft opening of the last opera under the name Le Café in the Chanakya Mall. It's a beautiful, beautiful. There is one in the lower level. It is there is our, we have the DS Group, which is our Indian partner, and they are operating there a wonderful, wonderful supermarket under the name Le Gourmet. And we are operating L'Opéra under the name Le Café. And I invite you to visit it. It is really, that's one of the other elements that gives you courage to continue.
No, so more power to you, Kazem, and lovely talking to you. And thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
No.